you're talking about system ID, or what's going on about this Hubble spacecraft? Why we need system ID for Hubble spacecraft? All right. This is the in about 1990s when the Hubble launched. But in 1993, Hubble launched in December 2nd, 1993, 4:26 a.m. in New York time, from Kennedy Space Center, Florida. And then, let's see, this is a shallow landing. It's December 13th. December 2nd, they launched the shuttle, and then they deployed the Hubble spacecraft, and then the shuttle come back. This landing weight is the 2 plus pounds. You can see, you can subtract this. 250, 314 minus 211, 210. That's about the weight of Hubble plus the gas of the shuttle. Okay, so you can see that that's very heavy. The Hubble designed to be that's mission duration. That's not the Hubble life. The Hubble life will be more than 10 years. But the mission durations for the shuttle is 10 days. So December 13 minus December 2nd is about 10 days. All right, and then the orbit the altitude is 500, about 600 kilometers. That's how high of the shuttle. However, now, after the launch, they found out the shuttle, the shuttle resolutions, the lens resolutions. The lens resolution is not as accurate as expected. All right, and then the camera. So why? So that's why. But now, the telescope is in space already. It's about 600 kilometers high. Now, you find out your camera has problem. They are not really good. So what can you do? It's already that high. You cannot say, okay, now we send the astronaut again, go there and check what's going on. Before you send astronaut, go to space to check what's going on of the resolutions of the telescope. You must determine what the problems of the telescope are. Otherwise, you cannot send an astronaut go there to fix it. You have to have the tools. You have to have the parts to see what's going on, to go there to change it. So what can you do? Space, space. You're on the ground. What can you do about it? What's going on? Why is not the lens resolution is not as accurate as what we designed? So the engineers, they come back to the engineers. So engineers, they have to do the test. Nobody inside the telescope. How can you do the test? You have to do all kind of tests to see the health. We call health. We call the spacecraft health monitor. How healthy are the spacecraft? Is the spacecraft is it healthy or is not? That's what they have to do the test. Okay. So engineers, that's the engineer's job. It's not scientists. Scientists don't care about this. They say, you are the one, you are engineering, you are the engineers, you are the ones supposed to solve the problems. The scientists, they will say, our scientists, we are the one creating the problems. The engineers are the one solve the problems. All right? What can we do? So, the engineer, sometimes we need to have a crazy idea too. Now, how can we test the spacecraft health? How can we do that? How can we do the test to check if the spacecraft is healthy enough? How can we do that? For the human being, we can just take out the bloods, go to the laboratory and check out the bloods, right? But there's no bloods in the spacecraft. What can you do? All right, in the spacecraft here, we do have, we call attitude control system. All the spacecraft, they do have attitude control system. Why? The attitude control system is the one supposed to control the spacecraft orientations. For example, for this spacecraft telescope, we have to control the length to the target, right? We have to say, okay, this is the star I want to see. So I have to move the spacecraft point to the stars. Agree? That's the job of attitude control system. The attitude control system is the one to maneuver the spacecraft for pointing. Right? So we have, because we have this control system, that means we have controller, we have control devices, we have sensors, devices, we call sensing devices. So we have control devices, we have sensing devices. The control devices give us the input. The sensing devices give us output. All right. The space, the Hubble Hubble has called moment wheel. The Hubble has a gyros. The moment wheel is the input. The gyro is the output. The gyro measure what? Measure angular velocity. The gyro measure angular velocities. Angular velocity of the spacecraft. The moment wheels, that gives us the torque. The torque to rotate the Hubbles. So in other words, we can also use the control devices, that's the moment wheel, to move, to rotate the Hubble. And then we can use the gyros to measure the angular velocities. So we do have an input, we do have an output. So if we send signal, the input signals to the moment wheels, then we can measure angular velocities by the gyros. So we can do the system ID based on these inputs and this output. Okay, that's how engineers did in 1990s. They use the moment wheels. They give the input signals to the moment wheels, and they measure the angular velocities of the Hubbles. And from that, we can build a mathematical model for the Hubble. From that mathematical model, we will be able to compute the frequencies, mode shapes, dampings of the Hubble spacecraft. And from those identified frequencies, from the identified Hubble frequencies and damping, from identified math model, of the Hubble spacecraft. Then from this math model, we compute frequencies, we compute damping, then we will be able to know what happens, why the Hubble spacecraft is not doing the job we designed to do. Okay. And you look at the if we know that when you use the camera, right? To take pictures, if your hand is shaking, then what happens? Your pictures, your photos won't be very clear, right? Agree? If you have if you you take the camera there, or not, maybe you drink too much and your hand is shaking. then you got a problem. It's not joke. That's exactly what happened of the Hubble. And Hubble did not drink? How come he get shaky hand? Why? We did not give the alcohol to the Hubble, right? Why they are shaky? Why Hubble is shaky? That's the problem. You can explain why Hubble is shaky. Right. Well, the possibility, what is the possible way that Hubble become a very shaky system? So that's good questions now. We want to have look at this. If you go back to these Hubble configurations, the Hubble configuration has this solar panel, and this solar panel is flexible solar panel. The solar panel, under the sun, the solar panel face the sun is very hot. Back to the sun is very cold. If Hubble come out from behind Earth to the front of Earth, then what happens? You come from very cold space to the very hot space. So think about it. If you come from very cold room and come out to the very hot room, then what you will be? It may be very busy, right? That's what happens. The solar panel here, it comes from very cold behind the Earth, then out in front of the Earth, face to the suns, from very cold become very hot. Of course, the solar panel will vibrate. It will vibrate. That we call what? That we call thermal shock. That we call thermal shock, the thermal shock. That becomes a thermal impact. The thermal force excite the solar panel. The solar panel become vibrating, then the whole Hubble spacecraft become vibrating. So that means the Hubble spacecraft has a shaky hand. Right? And how do you know? Why? We can see it. All eyes can see it. It just based on our mathematical model. We know when they're vibrating, we know their frequencies. So the conclusion is the Hubble solar panel is one of the many possible problems. It's only one possible problem. There are many other problems. This is only one possible problem. So, because of that, the engineers suggest that we have to change the solar panels. So, at the end, the NASA sent the astronauts to space to replace the components, including solar rays. And also solar ray drive electronics and so on. And they also changed the many other things. Initially, the Hubble telescope has 6 gyros and 4 magnetic wheels. And they also changed the other gyros because that they also find out some of the gyros fails. Right? So they also changed the gyros. So send an astronaut to space is not an easy task. Because a shuttle, normally, they fly only 400 to 450 kilometers high. But this Hubble up to 600 to 650 kilometers high. So you are talking about 200 kilometers higher than the normal operation of shuttle. You need the additional fuels. Also, going to the space is very dangerous environment. The astronaut can get hurt by any failure of operations. So it's also very expensive. And by the way, they have videos. I didn't have videos to show you. They have videos that show how the astronaut changed the solar panels, the solar rays, because solar rays. So the systematic in here play a major role in identifying the problems of the Hubble spacecraft. So that's the same thing. We use the EIA, and there's also based on that EIA methods. There are many methods